Well, let's cross to the National Assembly and listen in to the Prime Minister, Elisabeth Borne. As we can see there, she is taking to the podium. Let's listen to what she's got to say.
President, ladies and gentlemen, members of Parliament, by addressing you, I am also talking to the French people. Each of your constitutions carries a part of our history and the challenges that are opening up to us. Each of your territories expresses a reality of our country, of its fears and of its hopes. We all understand the extent of the task ahead of us. French people to protect, the Republic to defend, our country to bring together, the planet to preserve. This is why the President of the Republic has been working at this over the past 5 years. It is our collective mission in the government and on the benches. With you, with the whole government, with our citizens, we will succeed. I am determined that this happens. Over the past few weeks, on 4 different occasions, French people, ladies and gentlemen, expressed their wishes. Through voting, they are asking us to act, and to act in a different way. Through their messages, they are asking us to collectively take stock and responsibility. We will do this. Together, we will answer the gap of abstention. It is a sign of an ill democracy that is ill, disarray of youth, and loss of trust in our ability to change people's lives. Today, we will respond to this call for action. It is the one that is expressed strongly in the vote of the French people. We cannot disappoint them. Together, we will respond to this requirement to be accountable. French people elected an assembly with no absolute majority. They're asking us to move into new practices with sustained dialogue and the active search for compromise. The situation forces us. The war in Ukraine, at the doors of Europe, reminds us how peace is a fragile issue. The cost of energy is increasing, and we need to carry on protecting French people. The epidemic is still around us, and we need to remain as vigilant as possible. There is the environmental emergency, which is every second more pressing, and we have a duty for action. Insecurity concerns and worries our citizens and still destroys lives and destinies. We must say this also. Over the past few weeks, because the war is carrying on, our economic situation has worsened. Our growth prospects have worsened, interest rates have increased, and our public finances have to move back to a balanced situation. Faced with such challenges, disorder and instability are not options, not choices. We may not agree on all of the solutions, but we all, ladies and gentlemen, are aware of the emergency and this requirement and necessity to act. French people are asking for us to talk to them more, better, and to build together. We will answer present. I wish us together to give a new sense and meaning and virtue to this word compromise, which has been forgotten too often in our political lives. Compromising is not compromising our values. It means accepting each and every one of us to make a step towards the other. It does not mean giving up our differences and beliefs. There are differences, they will carry on existing. Building together does not mean giving up one's identity. Mine, as you know, has as an unadulterated basis the values of our republic: freedom, equality, and fraternity, and a secular society. My identity is a stronger France in a more independent Europe. It means equality between women and men, always and all the time. It means respecting secularity without compromise. It means refusing that people are opposed and not pointing the finger. It means being brave and telling the truth to French people. With these beliefs and these values that I cherish and protect as a woman, as a citizen, as an elected representative, as a Prime Minister, that I believe that it is useful and possible that each belief and each idea could be defended, discussed, and, if necessary, fought for. For too long, our political lives have been made up of blocs that are battling each other. We are now moving into an era of powers that are building alongside each other and together. A relative majority is not and will not be synonymous with relative action. It is not and will not be the sign of powerlessness. Let us remember that in 1958, the Gaullists were not in a majority in the National Assembly when the Fifth Republic was in its inception, and they created hospitals and unemployment insurance. The Rocard government, that only had relative majority on these benches, created unemployment benefit, CSG, and launched the peace process in New Caledonia. We still have rights that we need to conquer, progress to achieve, protection to build. If they achieved it, we will achieve it. Over the past few weeks, the President of the Republic, who is the guarantor of our institutions, and myself, listened and talked, and we put forward various ways of doing things for emergency situations and for the years to come. The result of our discussions is clear-cut. A new page in our political and parliamentary history has begun, that of project majorities. With my government, I will be the indefatigable builder of this, and I know how they are waiting on us. I am not a woman to give up in front of challenges or discussions and debates. I may not fit in with the portrait or imagination that people had of me, but that's good, because this situation is one that has never occurred before. I do not have the complex of the providential woman. I was an engineer, the managing director of a company, a préfet, a minister. I followed a red thread, and that was to serve. I am not a woman of long sentences and small words. I am convinced that these habits have nourished ways of stances and defiance and the crisis in our democracy. As far as I'm concerned, I believe in three aspects: listening, acting, and results. I only have one compass. I have only one compass. It will be that of my government, and that's building for our country. My government will never be the one of no-end cleavages and divisions already made, because I believe in the situation as it was begun 5 years ago by the President of the Republic. I am proud to have served in the Prime Minister's government, that he did not have the same political background as myself. I am proud to run a diverse team with different experiences and different walks of life. I'm proud and impatient to start with you in this very in-depth work and with ideas, project by project, to serve French people. We will carry out for each subject a very dense consultation process. We will look at each text with compromise, open-mindedness, and with communication. We will set within the framework the values borne by the President of the Republic. I said this to the group president of this assembly. We are ready to hear proposals from each and every one, to discuss them, and if we share the targets and values, to amend our project. This way of working will have to be taken on by us to think collectively in the future of the way our institutions are going to develop. Under the aegis of the President of the Republic, a transpartisan commission will be set up in September to achieve this. This method will have to be brought outside of the walls of this assembly. We will associate more the elected representatives in our thought process and decision-making and our decision-making. They are the cement of our republic. We need to leave margins for manoeuvre to the territories, because it's in different solutions that we will obtain concrete results and true fairness and equality. I do not believe that our school or health system have the same challenges in the centre of Paris, in the neighbourhood of Cayenne, or in the village on the outskirts of the city. We will consult more with intermediary corpuses, the live forces of our country, French people, ladies and gentlemen, in each territories, and more than ever, we will carry out each reform in close link with union and patronal organisations. We need them, and they know that they will find with me the right, open-minded person who is constructive and determined, associating all of the life forces in the country in this renewed dialogue, and by sharing opportunities and constraints, is the way in which the National Council for Reworking has been, or redevelopment has been created by the President of the Republic. French people are expecting us to provide. They will not accept mobilizing or obstruction or invective. They want a government, a parliament that is for action and acts. We have historic responsibility vis-à-vis our co-citizens. This responsibility is in the way in which we act, the responses that we provide, the results that we have to give. So, based on the framework that the French people chose, I suggest that we build together. Our first challenge, and I know this is a consensus amongst us, is to respond to the emergency of the purchasing power. Under the impulse of the President of the Republic, several measures have been taken since last autumn to protect French people from the increase in prices. Without them, the price of electricity would have increased by 1/3. Thanks to these measures, the increase was limited to 4%. Without them, price of gas would have increased by 45%. Thanks to them, the prices were stalled. Without them, a full tank of 60 litres would cost €11 more. We achieved a quick investment, massive investment for the purchasing power of the French people. Thanks to this, our inflation is the lowest in the Eurozone. We have protected French people, and we will carry on doing so, because many of our citizens remain at the mercy of each increase in price. From tomorrow, my government will present at the Council of Ministers an emergency proposal. Faced with inflation, they will have measures that are concrete, quick and efficient. Let's carry on with the protection on the price of gas and electricity, increase the revenue of work and better share value by lowering costs for independent workers and by increasing threefold the ceiling of the premium to revalorize retirement and social security, family allowance, revenue bonus, disability allowance, to revalorize the aid based on social criteria, and to help workers for whom the car is a requirement. These measures are the basis on which we will work, and with my government, we will be listening to you, and we will amend them when differences occur. Beyond emergency, for most French people, housing is the first expense. We wish it to be affordable for all. We have decided to put a ceiling on the increase in rent, and we will propose new solutions so that housing is accessible and available all over this by opening up the deposit to middle classes, by building more housing in areas where there is tension, by signing a confidence agreement with housing associations, by offering to communities a new decentralized action to concentrate means and responsibilities on the scale of the life areas, whilst being demanding to enable the project to be developed. Purchasing power is also ensuring that all can have access to healthy, high-quality food. We will define with professionals, with associations, with you, the outlines of the food check and coupon. Purchasing power means helping the most vulnerable people. We wish all to be able to get the help that they want and the contributions. With solidarity at source, we will put an end to injustice and will fight more efficiently against fraud. But I would wish to affirm this. The two keys of purchasing power over time is full employment, environmental transition. I will talk about this later. On all of these subjects, I'm convinced that we can find common solutions. But we will have to remember three principles. Environmental responsibility above all. We need to account for the environmental impact of all of our measures, and we need to replace, as soon as we can, our expenditure in favour of fossil fuels with decarbonated solutions. Responsibility for the budget now. Massive measures that we have put in place have protected French people. We had to make these decisions. Today, however, we need to renew with clear prospects to improve our public accounts. This is a requirement to be able to carry on financing our social model. It is a duty vis-à-vis the future generations. Our declaration of general policies are a moment of truth, a moment of sharing also the constraints that we are having to face. The data is clear. Because of the war that is lasting, and same as everywhere in Europe, our economic growth will be lower than forecast, inflation will be stronger, and the load of the debt is increasing. Our targets are also very clear. By 2026, we should have started lowering the debt. By 2027, we should have brought this deficit below the 3% mark. These targets will be achieved by building the conditions of strong, sustainable growth that will create jobs, by carrying out the right reforms, by taking good management measures, and by accentuating fighting fraud. The balance in our public finance is a question of sovereignty. I know that a lot of people on these benches have thought about this, and we've talked about this with President Marlex. Quite rightly. Finally, our third principle is the strong respect of the commitment made by the President of the Republic in front of the French people. Is the presence, the respect of the commitment made by the President of the Republic among French people. We have to stop believing that every time there is a challenge, the solution is a tax. So no increase in taxation. We are believable. We've removed the poll tax and dropped the tax on income. We have dropped the tax of French people and companies in total by over 50 billion during the previous 5 years. From the summer, we will stick to our guns. The removal of the audiovisual tax will save 138 euros to over 20 million households. It will go hand in hand with a reform of the financing of the public audiovisual structure that will ensure its independence and long-lasting means. And we'll work on this all together. Taxation will be one of our discussion areas, but it can also be a subject of consensus among us. And President Mattei and myself were talking about this. And I'd like to add that that purchasing power is a collective battle. We all need to take our share in it, and namely companies that make margins. Whilst inflation is strong, I'm expecting from employees, if they can, to take responsibility for it. We must go further in this respect. Our second challenge is to build together a society of full employment. This is a belief that I really hold strongly. It is nourished by my background, 2 years as Minister for Work, by our exchanges and discussions, and what I've talked about with citizens. We need to change our link and rapport with work. And at the heart of this, we have full employment and good employment. It is not just illusory. It is not an unattainable target. Today, full employment is at our reach, and work remains, as far as I'm concerned, a major lever for development. During the previous 5 years, we already went through half the way towards full employment. We have the lowest rate of unemployment that we have had over 15 years. Among young people, the lowest for 40 years. The share of French people who have a job has never been as high in this respect. This is the result of the basic reforms that we carried out for 5 years. We unlocked learning with over 700,000 learners in 2021. We made work more encouraging with the reform of unemployment benefit. We improved and intensified the training of job seekers by investing 15 billion euros in professional training. We better accompanied young people thanks to the plan One Young People, One Solution, and the contract for commitment to young people in employment. It is thanks to this result that we can now aim towards full employment. And I have the strong, deep belief that our country must and can come out of this vicious circle of mass unemployment. Today, the situation of employment has changed in our country. Many countries and companies in all areas, activities and territories are seeking to recruit. This situation is virtuous. It imposes on employers that they improve working conditions, that they put in question their management system, and it encourages them to make their job attractive. With full employment, workers are renewing with their power to negotiate. And to achieve full employment, we also will have to bring back into employment those who are the furthest from the labour market. I'm thinking of young people, of course, whom we will carry on helping, but I'm also thinking of people who are on benefit, basic benefit. What we want is to help them find work and renew with work. As Michel Rocard used to say, let's not lose the tenacious willpower to reintegrate. Let's come back to the spirit of unemployment benefit, RMI, RSA. Giving out contributions is not sufficient. What we want is that each finds their pathway and finds new dignity through work. What we are proposing is no more, no less than a measure of social justice and balance between an equilibrium between rights and duties. Full employment will be achieved also by helping unemployed people better. Today, our organisation is too complex. Its efficiency suffers from this. We can no longer carry on having, on the one hand, the state that accompanies job seekers, on the other, regions that are in charge of their training, and departments in charge of insertion for beneficiaries of the RSA, the basic benefit. This is why we want to change Pôle emploi into a structure called France Travail, France Work. We need to link up our strengths and power, work together to be more efficient in helping job seekers. This is how all French people will find their place in the work or the labour market, and we will respond to the recruitment needs of companies. Full employment is also rising to the challenge of discovering jobs, pathways and training. This starts from secondary school. With regions, we will ensure that each student is able to discover and know about different jobs in trade, in industry, in tourism, in art. In the arts, we will widen it to the professional lycées and we will show them the success of learning. And this challenge will not just end at the end of high school. In universities, we will enable students to choose and set off on a path depending on the job that they wish to carry out later. Thanks to lifelong training and learning, they should be free to change and seize new opportunities when they wish to. Thanks to this, over the next few years, we will be able to train 1 million young people in jobs of the future, and half of these will be in digital technology. Finally, thanks to full employment, we will create wealth and we will be able to finance our social model. As you know, we've always said things straight out to French people. In this respect, transparency is a requirement. Fake transparency is a lack of respect to our citizens. Our social model is a paradox, both generous, the most generous, and where one works the least amount of time. Our retirement system is an exception, whereas we leave later in most of our neighbouring European countries. And I'm saying this today for the prosperity of our country and the long-lasting of our system by spreading, to build new social progress so that no retired person with a full career has a retirement below 1,100 euros per month, to come out of a situation where the same job does not ensure the same retirement. Yes, we will have to work little by little, a little longer. Our country needs a reform in the retirement system. It will not be uniform and will account for long careers and difficult work. It will ensure maintaining the employment of older citizens. My government will bring it into a consultation process.
S'il vous plaît, mes chers collègues, laissez Madame la Première ministre continuer.
Please leave the Prime Minister carry on. My government will lead it to the consultation table with social partners by associating the members of Parliament as early on as possible. It is not already decided. It will not be there to take or to leave, but it is essential. And I will add that we cannot just give in to painful or difficult work. Through innovation, through technology, through career development, we can and we must improve working conditions and ensure that our citizens do not end their career broken by their work. So, yes, I'll say that work is an essential value. Working is a key to development. It creates wealth. It means developing, sharing values, additional resources for our social model. It means more ambition in corporate or social responsibility in companies. And we will all win from this situation. Ladies and gentlemen, MPs, building together means bringing essential responses to the environmental situation. Faced with the challenges, there's no It is no longer a question of opposing radical members to a small step environmental situation. We all are aware of the risks. We all need to act as a bloc. This radical world is something I take on myself. We will start radical changes in our way of producing, of housing ourselves, of moving around and of consuming. But I affirm this, and I do not believe for one instant that this climate revolution will go through a drop in growth or a decrease in growth. Quite the opposite. Quite the opposite. The environmental revolution that we wish to carry out are innovations, new activities, future jobs. It means a social model that is preserved, because with no activity, we would no longer be able to fund it. Over the past 5 years, we have accelerated the drop in greenhouse gas emissions, but we need to go further. Under the impulse of France, Europe has set the target of being carbon neutral by 2050 and reducing its emissions by 55% between now and 2030. These targets have to be achieved. Together, we will win the battle on the climate battle. To achieve it, my whole government is working together. The President of the Republic has put us in charge of planning the environment. We will have a biodiversity and climate roadmap. We'll define together an action plan, a battle order, and from September we'll start a whole consultation process to come up with an energy climate law. Activity by activity, territory by territory, we will define targets to reduce emissions, different steps and different means associated. Environmental transition is our business, all of us. Managers from major companies have to show and set the example, and their remuneration will depend on how they achieve these environmental targets. We will move forward with local representatives. They are in charge of planning, transport, housing and waste management. We need them. This is the meaning of why we created the Ministry for Environmental Transition and Territory Cohesion. They will be a source of inspiration, initiatives and ideas. Often, in their own territories, they have shown the way. Ladies and gentlemen, MPs, we will be, the first great environmental nation to come away from fossil fuels. It will be the guarantee of our energy sovereignty. It means preserving purchasing power. These are areas that are industrial areas that are new, and it means new jobs also. And I'm saying this and I'm repeating it. Our environment is an environment in which there is progress. I know this. Transition might lead to fears, maybe from employees in which the activities are being changed. President Châtelain, President Bayou, we have talked about this, and we are really, really strongly for this, in favor of this. We will leave no one along the wayside. We have drawn our lessons from textiles and steel. Each transition will go hand in hand with training for finding a new job. To come out of carbon, we need to move into an energy mix which is balanced between nuclear power and renewable energies. We will accelerate the deploying of renewable energies. We will invest in nuclear power with the building of new reactors and innovations for the future. Energy transition goes via nuclear energy. I know it's a belief that is widely shared by backbenchers. It is decarbonated energy, sovereign energy, and competitive energy. Succeeding in energy transition means being able to steer it, and I was saying this a few moments ago. the environmental emergency leads to the taking of strong, radical decisions. We need to have full management of electricity production, of its performance. We need to ensure our sovereignty faced with the consequences of the war and the huge challenges that we are going to have to face. We need to be able to make decisions on these benches that others have taken before us at a moment in history when the country also had to win the battle for energy and production. And this is why I'm affirming this today. We intend in the state to detain 100% of EDF capital. This change will enable EDF to strengthen its ability to carry out in the quickest time possible ambitious, essential projects for the future of our energy market. Succeeding in environmental transition and energy transition means using less. If our country is less dependent on Russian gas than our neighbours, we cannot believe or get them to make us believe that unilateral decisions made by Russia would actually spare us. If Russia were to cut off its gas exports, we would be affected. We too would be affected. And from now, we need to think of all of the different possible situations, even the most difficult ones, and share their consequences with all of the players and with French people. We can hold strong, but each and every one will have to act more widely. We have to avoid all useless consumption in housing. We need to increase the success of La Prime Rénov', the renovating premium bonus, to renovate 700,000 houses per year. We need to enable each and everyone to have access to clean transport. This is true in all cities and in all areas in the countryside. Railway is and remains the spine of mobility and the backbone. We will carry on with investing, as we have over the past few years, for everyday transport on shorter lines. Here, I would like to pay tribute to the action carried out by Jean Castex, indefatigable champion of mobility in the different territories. He committed personally to improving the railway system. All over the place, alternative solutions to individual use of traditional powertrains will have to be developed. Everywhere, we need to carry on supporting clean and active mobility. We wish to enable French people to have access to a zero-emission car, and in order to achieve this, we will carry on with these conversion grants, and we will put in place a long-term rental system at an amount of less than 100 euros per month. This is an environmental project. It is an industrial ambition also, because we will build these electric vehicles in France. Beyond or outside of transport, we will be decarbonating everywhere. This is true in industry. We will base ourselves on the 50 billion of investment by France 2030, and at least half this will be dedicated to these challenges. This is true for farming. We will carry on transforming our agricultural model. I'll come back to this. Protecting the environment means preserving nature and biodiversity faced with the risks of a sixth major extinction. We will accentuate and increase our policy to preserve natural spaces, forests, mountains, coastlines, oceans, and we will have specific attention to overseas territories where biodiversity is
Okay, we've just been listening in there to the French Prime Minister Elisabeth Borne.